This video is presented by EA Game Changers. I'd like to shout out EA for giving me the opportunity to capture some exclusive Madden 21 content for all of you savages. Let's get into the video. What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome to my channel. And like many of you probably clicking this video, you just got your hands on Madden 21 and you're like, all right, I play franchise. I'm a franchise guy. What settings do I need to know, C4? What are the tips that you can give me right out the gate that I can apply to my franchise mode? So I was gonna number it, but I just figured let's just go through the basics. Let's go through the things that I've been able, since I've had my hands on the game, to be able to confirm that are true. There's obviously a lot of things that carry over from Madden 20, but I basically just want to give you some very simple tips. A lot of these will probably benefit the newer Madden user than it would, say, some of you veterans, but you never know. It's been a while. Maybe some of you guys haven't played Madden and you're just getting back into things here for Madden 21, and you need a little refresher course. So the first thing that I always like to talk about, and this is something that I used to not really know what was going on. I never knew which one was for me, which one I really wanted to, and that was when I start my franchise mode, do I want to do a cloud or do I want to do offline? I was always an offline guy. And if you do play on PC, I recommend offline because offline is a little bit easier if you start going down the deep, dark hole of mods. Mods are a lot easier to use in offline. Like when I did Flashback Pink Slips, I played offline. But for my main franchises and pretty much anytime I do a rebuild, cloud is what I recommend. Now, I always just kind of thought playing on offline, it was safer, right? Regardless of internet connection, regardless of servers, if life is, you know, as long as my Xbox powered on and I did an offline franchise, my game would load. However, the benefits of cloud far outweigh the benefits of offline. And you can just see it right there, but we'll get to it. First of all, for cloud, it goes faster. Like literally, it's night and day how much faster the sim goes. Like if you're doing a rebuild in particular, you could probably save 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes in that range just of sim time by playing in a cloud save. Cloud saves, I'm pretty sure, get the patch updates quicker. It's just an easier way for, you know, whenever you get, especially here in Madden 21, where we're going to be waiting for a lot of franchise updates to come throughout the game's life cycle, get those stuff quicker on cloud. But the biggest one is, as you can see by that asterisk, if you do plan on getting the PS5, if you do plan on getting the Xbox Series X, cloud leagues will be important. That is easily the biggest reason why this year you want to play cloud. Nothing would be worse than just kind of being stuck on, having the blinders on and being like, I play offline, I'm always an offline guy. And just instantly when you get to this, you just, oh, I'm going offline, I'm not going to be reading anything. And then you're like, oh, I kind of screwed the pooch because I'm like 5 years into my franchise. I got the next gen console, but I can't import it over because I started offline. So without a shadow of a doubt, when you are starting your franchise mode, start with a cloud one. And I get it. It might be tough. I was offline for years, but when I finally made the jump to cloud, it made my life that much easier. On the career settings page, I mean, all this stuff is as classic as it gets. You should know all these options. However, this came like, I feel like midway of Madden 20. They added this roster protection section, and I actually, like, the first time I didn't even realize, like, I was just, starting to rebuild. It limits how many like guys you can cut down to, and I know some people, if you're doing different types of rebuilds, different types of experiments or anything like that, you may want to have your roster size dip below 46. And if you just didn't know that this was an option that they added into the settings before you start your franchise mode, you'd be like, why is my franchise broken? Why can't I keep cutting all these scrub players off my team? So just a little tip, check out this roster protection. You may not have seen it before in your settings, and always turn it to off so that you have unlimited opportunities and maneuvers and moves and ways to manipulate your roster. The next thing I want to look at is XP sliders. Gameplay sliders will come. That is something far beyond my pay grade. I assume usually within the first month or so, there's a really, really good set of sliders over on the Operation Sports forum. I usually tend to default to MAT 10 sliders, but for right now, Madden 21, you pretty much, it's a wait and see game. However, I have done a couple franchises, couple rebuilds and stuff like that, and I have been able to find XP sliders that I'm comfortable with. And essentially, they are my XP sliders from Madden 20, or at least my last edition of my XP sliders from Madden 20. They are based off of T-Dog sliders, which are pretty much the most respected community sliders. You can check that out. You can Google it. I have tweaked them just a little bit to from my just personal preference, I suppose. So this is what I'm currently rocking. We got 100 for quarterbacks, 125 for running backs. It's probably just easiest to pause this video at this point and write these down, or just carry them over on your franchise. Obviously, when you get up there, 150, you're starting to see, obviously that's a 50% increase from where the defaults are. But guards, centers, O-linemen generally, and tight ends, they need that little bit of boost to properly develop. I can tell you right now, we did a, tight ends. I'll just say from the couple videos that I have done so far here in Madden 21, tight ends, they need that boost. If they're just sitting out there at 100, regardless of production, they develop very, very slowly. Same goes for the D-line. We got 140 for the DNs, 170 for the defensive tackles, a bunch of hundreds, slight boost for both of the safeties, and I like to just modify my kickers and punters just a little bit. 125 for my kicker, 150 for the punter. So these, like anything, they're sliders. They will continuously get upgraded and updated, and we'll figure out what the best money zone is here in Madden 21. For we're just starting out, I think these are the best XP sliders you guys can use. The next tip is we're going to take a look at weekly training. Weekly training is something that I feel like the Madden community is kind of split on. Half the people leave it on. They like being able to hop in here and implement their game plan, do some training. I like using it sometimes for thumbnails and stuff like that. But it does also seem like there's a lot of people that just flick this on auto. They don't want to deal with it, and I'm kind of guilty of that too when I do my rebuilds. However, when you get this week 1 of the preseason every single year, turn it on manual so you can set your 3 focus players. Madden will do this for you yourself if you don't go in. And when you can, do not let the computer decide for you. When you have your own control over certain things, always, get your own type of personal preferences in here, because usually it's going to be your rookies. As you can see, we have Jalen Hurts as a focus player, Jalen Reagor. We also have Dallas Goedert, and for my, I don't really know if I want Dallas Goedert. If I'm Philly, I might want Miles Sanders, for an example. Miles Sanders to get that focus training. So these 3 guys will be locked in. So if you keep your weekly training on, obviously you'll be able to modify it and change it. But if you're doing a rebuild or you're just in your franchise mode and you don't want to mess around with the weekly training, you usually tick it on auto in your settings, which, let's be honest, in my rebuilds, I usually do that. At least for that first preseason week, set and lock in your 3 guys, because those will be your 3 guys that get that focus training throughout the season, and it definitely helps out for player development. The last little bit on XP is your coach XP. There's a lot of options, and if more so you're a newer player, you could be like, I have no idea what upgrade. Like, I got buddies that are coming over to play from the yard. They don't play Madden, but they're probably going to want to dip into a franchise mode. That's maybe a little bit why I want to make this video. And you're going to see all these options, and they're not cheap. Like, there is, that is going to be hard, especially if you're starting as a brand new coach and you don't know what upgrades should you prioritize. So I'll tell you this right now. All of these player acquisition upgrades should absolutely be like the last thing you upgrade. You could definitely look at expert scouting if you are finding that you're just, and every given week, you're always a couple points short of being able to complete your board. But I would say generally, if you manually scout every single week, plus those bonus weeks you get in the offseason, you're probably going to be fine, unless you're doing an all-out rebuild or you really want to put, an emphasis on building through the draft. By all means, get expert scouting. And it's not that expensive. $1,400 is like one of the cheapest packages you can get. But that's really the only early upgrade from player acquisition I could feasibly recommend. As we go to player retention, same kind of deal. This is definitely on the back burner. I would not be worrying about any of these things unless, for example, like say you pick with the Bucks and you really don't want Tom Brady to retire, then obviously you could save up and for 3,700 points, get that retirement influence so hopefully he doesn't just bounce. Or same could be said if you have, a mega contract coming up. If you were playing with, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys and you want to lock in Dak Prescott, maybe the quarterback re-sign influence would be worth buying. But for me, I would say just hold off on this just a little bit. Nothing there is important. Player progression is the biggest. Without a shadow of a doubt, the number 1 upgrade I would get is the weekly XP goal. Everything is about player development, getting quicker player development, maximizing your player development, because age is rough. Age is rough. You got those prime years, 21 to 27, maybe even 28. You want to maximize as much XP as you can during that period for your players, because after that, the regression starts to take place and there's nothing you can really do about it. So get the player XP, and then, you can start looking at this. If you want the most value, obviously quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, those are all specific. That is one position group. But if you get, say, the O-line training boost, which I highly recommend, you're going to get a boost for all your tackles, all your guards, and your setters. D-line boost, you get D-ends and D-tackles. Linebacking boost, you get inside linebackers, outside linebackers. And with the DB boost, you get your corners and safeties. So, for me, I always start with the O-line, and then I just kind of look at my team. If you have a younger D-line, you might want to go D-line. I go by your position group. What position do you have the younger players? If you have a veteran D-line, they're probably not going to need that XP boost versus, say, if you have a bunch of rookies, first, second, third-year players in your secondary, I would prioritize getting that training boost. But it is definitely team-specific. Go with your youngest position group first for your training boost packages. And my last 2 tips are going to be primarily for the sim user. If you don't plan on playing every single one of your games, this is definitely important information, more so for the new players. Again, I know that if you're an experienced player, you've been rocking with the channel for a long time, I don't want to, borderline insult your intelligence, but this is stuff that should be known if you are a borderline new player, and that is, do you want a guy that gets a lot of tackles? If you have a young player that you want to maximize it, you want to lead your team in tackles, make sure that they're your sub linebacker in your specialist section of your lineups. For me, if I'm Philly, Jatavis Brown retired, but we have Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills, if you've been watching any of my Eagles videos, you know I've been begging and pleading Philadelphia to move him to safety. If you want to maximize Jalen Mills, now that he is a safety, you want him to catch on. You got that normal dev, you want him to get X amount of tackles because dev trait upgrades at the end of the season will be performance-based. If you rank, it's like top 10-ish in total tackles, and then they combine tackles for loss, interceptions, stuff like that. If you just basically want to run up the box score stats on the defensive side of the ball when it relates to tackles, make the guy that you want on your team to get the most tackles, to have the biggest opportunity at going up a dev trait, your sub linebacker. The inverse of that on the offensive side is the slot wide receiver. It is still very much a thing here in this game. If you sim a season, I'll do it right in just a second. The proof in the pudding. Your slot wide receivers eat. In your sim, your slot wide receiver 95% of the time will be your leading receiver. So if I'm Philadelphia, to maximize Jalen Reagor, the first round pick out of TCU, I don't want him getting stuck behind Deshaun Jackson, stuck behind Alshon Jeffrey. I want him to hit the ground running. I want him to get the most targets. I want him to get the most XP. I want to capitalize on that dev trait. You're going to put him in slot. He will be leading your team in yards and touchdowns, most likely at the end of the season. Like I said, it's 95% automatic. I'll just sim this year, and I'll show you the proof is in the pudding. We'll watch Jalen Mills stats as our starting sub linebacker and Jalen Reagor stats as our starting slot wide receiver. While we wait on those stats as we go through the season, another one I want to talk to you guys about is your dev trait scenario. I actually had people saying, I never get dev trait scenario C4 in Madden 20. What is going on? Well, if you're a person that when you want to go through, say you're doing a rebuild, right, and you just go right here and you want to sim to mid-season and you want to sim to the end season, you're not going to get those dev trait scenarios. You need to go, it's tedious, but you have to sim week by week by week, and every single week you may have that opportunity pop up. Like we got right here, our offensive coordinator thinks Miles Sanders can go from a star to a superstar dev. But if I just straight up went from the beginning of the season, week 1, and hit that skip or sim to mid-season, I wouldn't have any of those dev trait scenarios pop up. So if you do want to have dev trait scenarios in your franchise mode, be it in your actual base franchise mode or in a rebuild, sim week to week to week so that you could possibly have those scenarios trigger for you. So we're at the end of the season just to show the whole sub linebacker and slot wide receiver benefit to your squad. So we took someone like Jalen Reagor, who was like wide receiver 4 on our team, firmly behind Deshaun Jackson, Marquise Goodwin, Alshon. I think Alshon actually had an injury, which helps out just a little bit. But look at that, Jalen Reagor, putting him in the slot as a rookie, led the team in receptions, led the team in yards, and definitely led the team in touchdowns. So if you want to maximize your best young rookie receiver, your best young dev trait receiver, put him in the slot position, it is going to yield great results. Same for sub linebacker. We took Jalen Mills, strong safety, put him at sub linebacker, led the team in tackles with 109, 7 TFLs, had a sack. Didn't really help his interceptions out much. I like seeing that from Darius Slay, actually. That'd be awesome if you get 4 picks next year for the Eagles. But yeah, like the slot wide receiver maximizes your wide receivers. Same with sub linebackers here for linebackers. So you want tackles, you want dev traits, put your most important young influential players at sub linebacker and slot wide receiver. So that will do it for your basic essential must-know tips for Madden 21 franchise right out the rip. I'm sure we could refine this list, maybe do it a little bit more, I'm not gonna say in depth. That's pretty much all you need right there. I will be back with scouting tips. I have been just grinding drafts, trying to figure out what some of the tells are of the draft classes here in Madden 21. There is definitely some carryover from Madden 20. There are definitely some things that are different. RIP high bench press for linemen. But I will have that video out probably later tonight. So if you want to continue to maximize your Madden 21 franchise experience, make sure you tune back in. So if this video helped you out at any point, be a friend and hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 150,000 subs. Would love to hit 200,000 sooner than later. So thank you if you guys do hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. The likes help me out in the old YouTube algorithm. That does for me here today. Go out and enjoy your Madden 21 franchises as much as you can, and I'll see you guys back on the next one. Till next time, C4 saying peace out.